Hey everybody, this is Mike from Granola Arcade, and I am very excited to show off my latest controller design, the Granola Summit. The goal of this video is to go over all the features and capabilities of the Summit, help you make as informed a decision as possible if you're thinking about buying it or looking to compare this to other leverless controllers that are on the market today. If you're watching this on YouTube, the video is broken into sections, so if there's anything specific that you're looking for, feel free to locate it using the timeline below. First, I'll go over some basics. The Summit runs the very popular open source GP2040CE firmware. This is a community maintained firmware that's open source and available for any kind of hacking or download or anything that you want to take a look at. It's got very low latency and a ton of features. So you can set up SOCD, you can change profiles, you can use macros. It's got lots of different consoles supported, and it's also under constant development. So this controller is updatable if new versions of GP2040CE are released, or if you want to build your own from source, you are welcome to do that, and there will be instructions in the manual for how to change the firmware on this device. As far as console support goes, out of the box, it supports PC, Switch, PS3, and Android. Now, for PS4, PS5, and Xbox, it has a feature called USB passthrough. So this is a feature of GP2040CE. The idea with passthrough is that you plug in an additional authentication device into this USB port here. Here's an example of what this device might look like. This is the Mayflash Magic Boots PS4 pass-through device. These cost about $25 to $30 online today. You take this tiny device and you plug it into the USB port along the top here. And now this controller supports PS5. So there are additional pass-through devices available for Xbox. This device also supports PS4, and so you can really get any kind of console that you want without any added latency of a converter. Now, if you do want to use a converter, maybe a tournament provided them for you, or you just have one lying around, this does support all the major converters like the Brook Wingman and the Mayflash converters as well. There are a wide variety of colors available for you to customize your controller with. This particular design is with purple case and plum buttons, but I have 25 colors available for you to customize down to each individual button if you would like. The Summit uses low-profile switches for both the menu buttons and the gameplay buttons. For the gameplay buttons, they're using Kailh Choc Red V2 switches. These are linear switches. And for the menu buttons, they're Kailh Choc V1 White switches with injection molded button caps from Chosfox. So we'll do a little sound check here. That's the clicky switches. And that's the linear switches. The button layout of the Summit kind of takes a standard all-button controller layout. These are the direction buttons, and then these are the face buttons. It also adds 2 additional buttons for L3 and R3 that are mapped here. You can use these for additional inputs in whatever game that you're playing. So for example, in Street Fighter, you might want to move the drive impact button a little bit closer, or have a dedicated throw button or something like that. This is applicable to a wide variety of games, and it's nice to have these extra buttons to play with. The layout itself is very compact. There's actually only about 3 millimeters of distance between any of these individual buttons, and so the geometry has changed a little bit to support a slightly more angled hand position here. I just want to say I have quite large hands. I'm taking up the entire screen here right now, and this has been incredibly comfortable for me to play with. So I'm really confident that this design will work for a wide variety of hand sizes, and the compact layout really helps you hit buttons very, very quickly. So let's take a look at the rest of the case here. One thing that's really unique about this controller is that it's printed as one continuous monolithic piece, which really helps with rigidity and durability. This is not something that you'll see any play in if you're trying to flex it. There's very high degree of rigidity, and it's very impact resistant as well. This is a really, really durable setup for a controller, and it's really not something that I would expect to require much maintenance over time. On the back here, you'll see that there's a piece of silicone that kind of takes up the entire space on the back here. Really, the goal is to prevent any slippage that happens on a desk, and so this comes with the controller to allow you to make it really, really grippy on the back. If you prefer a different option, if you don't necessarily like this silicone option here, this will come separately in the box, and you'll apply it yourself when you get the controller. So if you choose to attach something else to the back here, or just run it with the bare plastic on the back, that's totally up to you and very easy to do. One last thing before we kind of go into the ports on the top is I really want to highlight that when you take off the button caps here, you can see that these switches are held in place by a plate around the edges. You'll see this in some really high-end controllers. The goal here is to keep these switches really, really rock solid. And I just want to say this feels amazing to press. I can't really show it too well in the video, but you can press it as hard as you want on the side. It'll transmit, it'll come back up exactly as you would want it to. And this just feels really, really awesome to play. These plates also extend the life of the Hotswap sockets. I didn't mention that this controller has Hotswap capabilities, so you can switch out these switches for any Kailh Choc V1 or V2 switch. There's a huge variety of switches available, and these plates keep the Hotswap sockets lasting a really long time. So I don't know if you have used the sockets before, but one thing you'll find is as you use them over and over, they'll loosen up quite a bit. There's definitely ways to tighten them down again after they've loosened up, but with this design, even if they're loosened up, the plates will still hold these switches really securely in place. So there's really nothing to worry about as far as your buttons flying all over the place when you're trying to play. Taking a look at the top of the controller, you can see where the PCB fits into the monolithic case. This is the only open end on the controller. The PCB just slides right in. So if you want to do any maintenance to this controller, you really just have to pull off the buttons, take the switches out of their sockets and locations, and then you can slide this PCB out just like an envelope. Along the top, you can see a USB-C port for plugging this into the console or PC. The pass-through port, which I mentioned before, as a way to get access to other consoles and support other consoles without any added latency. And then this new feature. These are 3 TRS jacks. TRS is also known as a headphone jack. Essentially, what these allow you to do is to plug in external buttons. External buttons like foot pedals, any kind of larger button, anything you might need to get relocated on this controller for accessibility reasons or anything like that is available to you. So these by default are mapped to R1 L1, R2 L2, and R3 L3. So you get 6 additional buttons coming out of the back here that you can remap anywhere that you want. So check with your tournament organizers if you're trying to play with external controls, just to make sure that everything's above board. But in a lot of cases, you'll be able to customize your entire gameplay experience. So if you're in a position where any of these individual buttons are difficult to reach, anything like that, I really encourage you to use this capability. You can map foot pedals or any other external button that you want to these ports. So that's almost everything that I want to show off today. The only other thing that I really want to cover here requires me to show you what the PCB is going to look like. So this is the PCB for this controller. This is what does all the electronics and what fits into the case as shown here. But the thing that I really want to show off is that for these footprints where these Hotswap sockets get put in place, on the other side, these footprints are mirrored, which means that I'll be able to offer a mirrored or a left-handed version of this controller. I don't have that fully done to show it off here today, but I'm really excited to show that off when it'll become available. So coming soon, the Summit will also have a mirrored and left-handed version for you to play with. I hope you enjoyed this video summary of the Granola Summit, my newest controller. For any future updates, my website is granola.games. And the best place to get any info and to meet a community full of cool people is to join the Discord, which is linked from my website. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you on the trails.